What's up in War Eagle War Report family? It's your guy Ike Jones. We're here. Another morning drop. We're talking about new DB from the Juco ranks. Chancellor Anthony has signed on with the Auburn Tigers. Y'all know how we do right here, War Report style. We got to discuss it. Let's drop it on them.
You are now listening to the War Report.
Morning drop time. It's Monday, June the 5th. I am here this morning, Ike Jones with B. Will, and we're talking a little bit about the new transfer Juco defensive back out of Tyler Community College in Texas. Chancellor Anthony, B. Will, how you feeling this morning, man?
Feeling all right. Feeling like we might actually be done with off-season additions with this signing, but I guess we'll see. We can't really say what Hugh Freeze is going to do.
Including the freshmen that have come in with this class, this will make the 42nd new addition to this roster, which is crazy. Like, that is half a roster, essentially. Scholarship folks. You guys know what we're doing here. Morning Drop, sponsored by the Rogue Shop. Make sure that you head over to rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get a little something off of your purchase. We appreciate everybody dropping in with us this morning. We're here talking about Chancellor Anthony, a.k.a. Champ, a.k.a. the Pirate. Hugh Freeze is already a champ. Got a champ for Auburn. We're done.
I said I was going to bring a champ here, so.
Yeah. Done. He's done. Done deal.
Yeah.
We can all go home.
Wrap it all up.
Good job, Coach. But yeah, no, Chancellor Anthony, not a lot to really talk about in regards to what he's done already. We can talk what he could potentially do. Only played in 4 games at Tyler Community College. Wasn't like super. Let me go try to see if I can pull up. I had it over here on the other screen. Apologies. His stuff out of high school. To get that information for you all. I don't even have his high school stuff over here from Rivals. I don't know what he was in high school, man. But but yeah, what the scouting report says on this young man is that he is a ball hawk, right? Like, he's got in four games, only 4 games, he did get 1 interception, a couple of pass breakups, a willing tackler. I think he's likely going to be playing a little safety for Auburn, maybe a little slot corner slash nickelback, right? Like, that's probably where I see him fitting in with the scheme of what's going on. But do you have any information about young Mr. Anthony?
No additional information on top of that. I know that, again, he didn't play a lot last year, so we don't have a full season of work for him to say, hey, here's who he is or who he can be. Now,
right.
Granted, 1 interception in 4 games. If we're tracking against Auburn's defensive backfield the last couple seasons, even when we defended well with the Roger McCreary on the roster 2 seasons ago, interceptions was not something we got a lot of. So if we do have somebody who's a ball hawk, if you want to extrapolate that to say he gets 3 to 4 picks over the course of a season, that's phenomenal from one defensive back. So it seems if we got somebody who can also get their hands on the ball because he has some pass breakups as well, then that's what you need. We've had outstanding cover corners who are going to keep close to their man and make it hard for them to get the catch and get the ball. That is not the same as having a nose for the ball and knowing how to get into passing lanes. That's another very important skill set all in itself. I think about like a Carlton Davis. He was not a guy who was going to be a hawk for the ball, but he was going to be on his man like glue. Roger McCreary had a little bit of both in him, honestly, but Roger McCreary, primarily, he's going to stick to his man like glue. And the same thing for DJ James. The last time, I'm trying to think the last ball hawk DB we had, who was just like, I'm going to get the ball.
Yeah, I don't know, man. There has not been a guy who I can think of as just like a ball hawk out there. Like, we've got a couple of guys in Auburn history that have got a lot of interceptions, but it's been a very long time since I could say that that's been something. So yeah. I think the thing with Auburn in general is just the necessity to have more of a pass rush to try to allow those guys the opportunity. You know who I want to say is going to be that ball hawk this year,
Mr. Scott.
Yeah, my guy Kiante Scott. I think he's going to get that opportunity to go out there and do it, especially in this defense where he's going to be playing the star position. If you guys have not seen did an interview with Kiante Scott that's up on the channel right now. So make sure that you guys go and check that one out. But he's a guy who I anticipate having some opportunities in this defense just because of what position he's playing and the way that they want to feature. It's called the star for a reason, right? Christian Tutt was a guy I think that was pretty opportunistic.
I was thinking Tutt. Honestly. His last season wasn't great, but our defensive last season wasn't great in 2020 when he was here. But yeah, he had a nose for the ball, and I thought he did a very good job back there, taking advantage of what was, again, 2019 was the year that he shined, but our pass rush, we could pressure the quarterback like the best that year than we had in quite a few years, because of the inside presence of DB and also Marlon Davidson on that line. So listen, if we can create the pressure, of course you need defensive backs who can take advantage of that. This seems to be one of them. You create the pressure. Here's a guy who's going to make a quarterback pay for it. So they're filling out that roster. And similarly, or funnily enough, the defensive back from New Mexico, or was it New Mexico State? I can't remember, that we ended up not signing, also had some pretty good contact with the
New
ball.
Mexico State, yeah.
Yeah. He had some pretty good numbers, stats of making contact with the ball. So apparently they're going for a specific skill set here, defensive back.
It's almost as if they have a type.
It's almost as if they have a type. Where have I heard that? Somebody's mentioned that before. I can't remember. But yeah, to your point, Ike, you said it weeks ago. Hugh Freeze has a type, but this is more strategic to how you build a defense, right? Are you going to build? This
is a Ron Roberts type, though, right? Like he has a particular kind of defensive back that he wants to play in the schemes, and I think that listen, to say a coach has a type is not like some groundbreaking analysis, right? Like every coach has particular types. When you think about the what Pete Carroll was doing up in Seattle with the Legion of Boom, right? Like that defense, they kind of pioneered having the taller defensive backs,
right?
And the style of defense that they wanted to play. Speaking of a Chancellor, right? Like they had Cam Chancellor, that box safety that was really kind of a hybrid linebacker safety,
yeah,
right? Like that was something that they pioneered with that defense at the NFL level, and then a bunch of teams started mimicking it, right? So coaches having types, that's not unusual. Coaches have particular things that they want to do with their scheme that fit well, and a lot of them try to do something that's novel in that scheme that hasn't been done before, and have particular styles of players that fit it really well. And once they find the right combination of guys in certain spots, right, the tall DBs again in the Legion of Boom with that box safety, now everything else around it just kind of works in a particular way. You get your defensive linemen that, we're going to play, whether it's going to be 3-down linemen or a 4-down lineman. We need particular, we need 0 tech, 1 tech, 2 tech, whatever we want to do with our scheme. Right now in San Francisco, they use the wide 9, right? So that fits really well with what Bosa does if we're going to line them up way outside of the tech, right? It's just teams have types, right? Like coaches have types. It's not groundbreaking. And I think with what Ron Roberts and what Coach McGriff wants to do right now is get a particular type, because they're expecting to create chaos up front with the linebacker and defensive line play with that jack position. So they want guys who have a nose for the football, because we're going to give you some opportunities. Do you have a particular type of ball skill? Do you have a particular type of physicality on the outside? Because we want to pressure up front. And if we're going to play, man action on the outside, and I watched a little bit of the tape that they posted for Anthony on Twitter, and a lot of it he's playing very aggressive, right? Like I'm like, I don't know, he get a little handsy, but hey, I like physical defensive backs that are going to get their hands on a receiver, and they're going to make sure that they're not letting them get free releases up the field, or they're going to challenge at the top of the route. I like that kind of stuff, man. That's something that that I really loved about McCrary. McCrary was, from the very first time I saw Roger McCrary out there on the field, I was like, oh yeah, he likes to get physical with receivers. This is good, because you're gonna earn every single one of them. Maybe they throw a flag, maybe they don't.
Right.
Make them make a call.
Hey, in college, listen, you got coaches here. Wes McGriff is here to coach you up, to teach you how to be aggressive and maybe not get called for so much of that. But you're going to be able to play that way. And in college, it's not going to hurt you nearly as bad as it is during the pros.
Yeah.
And pro coaches will know. Right. Exactly. We're not listening. What? 10 yards, buddy. The worst I can get. Touchdown. Nope, no touchdown. Let me hem you up real quick. All right, cool. 10 yards. You can get that first, but you ain't finna catch it on me.
Yeah.
there's advantages to this. I'd rather have a guy who's too aggressive and coach him down from it a little bit than have a guy who doesn't have it and try to coach it into him. But I think that's much harder to do.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, he's got a couple of years of eligibility. I don't know if he's going to play into the scheme this year. That's one thing that's, haven't seen this with Coach Freeze yet, but has been interesting with the JUCO pickups that we've had over the last couple of seasons with Auburn. It hasn't been what we've typically had with JUCOs, which is guys who've come in and they've contributed immediately. Like, listen, we had the #1 rated JUCO player last year, barely saw the field.
Right.
#1 JUCO safety, barely saw the field except for
Right.
maybe some spot duty in special teams.
Right.
This year we got another JUCO DB. We got, some other JUCO ballers that are on the team. How much of playing time are they actually going to see? I do anticipate now with this staff that we will see more of those guys, because I think, again, that's part of the selling point to come to Auburn, is come to Auburn and play, not come to Auburn and compete for a spot.
Right.
Right.
And apparently they want to be able to match some dynamic passing offenses that they're going to see. And that's one spot for DB that you don't really have to sell guys that you have to be in the top 4 to play. No, man, listen, we're going to have different packages depending on what we see across the other side of the field. You may be the nickel this game. Next game, there might be another dude that's a nickel because he has a different skill set. This quarterback is known to do this, and we think you are going to be better on the field for that. You can prep your guys and keep them engaged, because everybody gets to be involved in not only the game plan, but the actual play on the field. They're getting reps. And at this point, for all the guys who are coming up from JUCO, what do they need? They need exposure. They need to be seen. They need film. If you're going to put these guys in the rotation and put them in your game plan, that's the best case scenario for them. I think it's a lot easier to sell that they're going to play right now than it was 15 years ago when you were just going to be playing the run-on game.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the dime and nickel packages, the real nickel specifically, has become standard for most defenses. You're going to have 5 DBs out there on the field. Having the hybrids in this day and age is super important because of the way that defenses are being attacked by a lot of these spread out concepts. You need guys who can play in space, but also be able to come up and tackle. The only thing that I've seen in regards to Chancellor Anthony is maybe he needs to be more physically ready for this style of play. So maybe just get into the weight room. So, listen, they are right now out there doing the summer program, and he's going to be able to get on campus immediately and hopefully get his weight up and be able to be ready for the physical rigors that's going to happen in the SEC. But again, I don't know how much he's actually going to be called on to play significant minutes, but it's never bad to have more depth. I am surprised we got more depth in the defensive backfield. Just because we have so many quality defensive backs. But I do believe that we are officially done now adding guys to the roster. And it's going to be interesting to see how all of this shapes up and where people are going to fall in this rotation and depth chart. When the first 2 deep comes out, whatever that's going to look like, it's going to be interesting. I am actually looking forward to just talking to Coach Hugh Freeze about and Coach Ron Roberts, for that matter, about how they anticipate putting out, what a depth chart looks like for this team. And because they've been talking about, on the defensive side specifically, about how much they want to rotate guys, whether that's D-line, linebacker, or DBs. Like at every level, they've been talking about rotations and having a lot of guys in there trying to keep people fresh. And I do think that that's one part, they want to actually keep guys fresh, right? And another part of wanting to satisfy the, hey, we got you in there for playing time purposes,
right?
Thing. So we'll see how that kind of shapes up.
Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead. I thought you were going to say
I was just thinking about finishing the class with a defensive back. You said we had 42 entries. As I think back to the end of last season, I'm trying to think about 42 departures. And honestly, I know we had a few scholarships left, so it wouldn't quite be 42. But I can't remember in real time, like, do I remember 30-something people leaving? Like, I know we had the draft eligible people who went. So that was just under 10, though. Right around 10 altogether between the draftees and the people who didn't get drafted. It wasn't too much more than 10, maybe 11, 12 total. But I keep thinking, like, what are the other 20-something players that we lost?
Yeah, I mean, so you got to think about the guys that transferred out, right? Like there was 15 of those guys.
Right.
And I don't know how many people just graduated off of the team that didn't apply, didn't try to go to the draft. But I don't know. I honestly don't know, how we got so many roster spots available.
Yeah.
That's something that we need to go back and take a look at, but it is going to be interesting to see. I think it's interesting to see how this team has transformed so much in one offseason. The product on the field is yet to be displayed, but it is the what they have on the roster being so drastically different than what we had on the roster last year.
Yeah.
It's and which makes it so much more difficult, I think, to predict where this team is going to land because it's nowhere close to the same team. It's I mean from the coaching staff down to the last guy on the roster, it is a complete overhaul of a program in one offseason.
Yeah, it is. It is. And for all of the leeway that I think you and I and most of us were all four of us were willing to give Brian Harsin early on, you build a program, here's how it needs to look. If it's going to be slow, it's fine as long as we see improvement. I have rethought completely with how fast should this happen? How fast can this happen? Are we going slow just because you like to go slower because it takes time to build culture and get your recruiting style and your type of player in here? Honestly, man, listen, it has turned over very fast. And even now, what I think might be a little more of an indictment of it is the fact that you've got 2 ace recruiters on staff here that you had on staff last cycle, like Cadillac and of course Coach Etheridge. Oh, buddy, like they've been here. Etheridge has been the biggest recruiter for us anyway. Like it really shows a difference in priority. It's like you can recruit. We were going to get some talent. If he had one, he would have been able to get more, but the speed is at which this has happened, especially in the second window where we thought, well, there's nothing out there. Well, look, we may have gotten the starting quarterback in the second window, the prime pass rusher in the second window. We've got the deep threat with Shorter with what his yards per catch. We may have gotten some of the most critical pieces to this team in the second window. I'm like, you know what? Hey, eating crow about Brian Harsin and his tenure all day. There's a difference in culture, but there's a difference in urgency. Hugh Freeze has the urgency that Brian Harsin did not.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is night and day, and it's interesting to see it play out for sure. Like I said, it's well documented that we were like, oh, it's going to take time. It's going to take time. If Coach Freeze actually pulls this off, like I said, not just in the turnover of roster, but in the turnover of win totals this season. It sets a bad precedent. I'm not going to lie about that for what you can expect from a coach in the short term. So to me, it's going to be more about what the year over year returns are going to be, because listen, we've seen this play out once before, as far as a coach comes in and it's a radical change as far as the number of wins in their first season. But what does year 2, 3, and 4 look like relative to that is going to be super important for me. But hey, listen, I will take this year. I'll take lightning in the bottle this year, as long as he can figure out where that bottle is to capture some more lightning coming up in the next couple of years. But we're going to get and listen to you guys and see what you have to say about all of this stuff. Before we do want to talk about Harman Mechanical. You guys can make sure that you head over there. Head over to harmanmechanical.com if you have heating and air needs. Listen, if you need to get, and we've talked about a lot about just like for your personal home, but listen, if you live in an apartment complex and you know that the AC be acting up in there, go talk to your management company. Have Harman Mechanical come out and check out the complex, right? Get the people over there. Make sure wherever you live that you're going to be comfortable during these these summer months before it starts to heat. It's actually already started to get pretty hot, man. I was looking at the Birmingham Stallions game, Birmingham Stallions USFL team here in Birmingham. And they were showing what the heat index was down on the field for the game this past weekend. It was like 130 degrees. I was like, man, what in the world is happening? Nah, fam, we're not doing that. So, get your heating and air situation right down there in the Auburn area. harmanmechanical.com. 334-219-0717 is where you can call to get your initial consultation. They'll come through, hook you up with a plan, make sure you're right for the summer. All right, we're going to get right in here to your comments. We appreciate you guys dropping in with us this morning. Make sure that you're sharing the video if you haven't already. Share the video with somebody. Let them know that we're out here doing this work this morning. Like the video. This is a good time for you to go ahead and hit that thumbs up button before you get out of here. If you're on your phone, minimize the live chat, click the like button, and then you can pull the chat back up and you can continue talking with your friends here in the chat. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel and you haven't, or you've been lurking and you hadn't done that. Make sure you do that. We appreciate all of that. But anyway, let's get to the comment section, see what you guys are talking about this morning. Right here, Morning Drop with the War Report. We're going to kick it off with AU Alum 94, who says, need to put a bit of weight on old Champ. Yeah, comes in a little undersized, but hopefully he's got time. Listen, our defensive backfield is, as I've mentioned already, is a deep room. So when you've got a lot of depth, you don't have to rush a guy out there on the field. So hopefully they feel confident with at least 4 guys already. And this is just going to be some added guys for the future, or for, like I said, nickel packages, dime packages, whatever you want to do for additional DBs on the field.
Yeah, for sure.
TK jumps in and says, Champ Anthony, in quotation marks, pirate. He ran a 10.700 meters in high school in Arlington, Texas. So he's got some wheels on him.
Got the jets. It's good.
Hey, listen, man, our defensive backfield's got a lot of guys with speed. We've talked about the speed that we have out there with Pritchett. DJ James apparently can move. They said, what's my guy's name? Was DB, plays safety now.
Simpson.
Yeah, Jalen Simpson's got wheels, man. Those guys can actually move out there a lot, man. So adding some more speed to that room is never going to be a bad thing, especially, again, when you want to be in situations where you're pressuring a guy in the pocket and you want him to throw something up for grabs. A guy who can close and take something away or knock a pass down is going to be crucial when you're giving your guys opportunities. And hopefully we're going to be doing that with that simulated pressure up front.
Yeah, for sure.
Haley jumps in and says, good morning, fam. Great interview with Andy Burcham. If you guys didn't know, Building Rapport with Andy Burcham is live right now on the channel. So once we're done here with the morning drop, make sure you go over there and check out that interview. Myself and Mike G sat down with Andy Burcham, the voice of Auburn Sports right now. Great interview. Had a great time talking with Andy. Jonathan Boyson jumps in and says, I'm excited for the pickup, but don't know where he fits on the depth chart.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're trying to figure out as well. Is he somebody you're going to keep in there? I know everybody knows we have guys who are going to be specifically in there to rush the passer, right? I think it makes sense for him to be the 5th DB on the field when you're rushing the pass. When we are in passing situation, it's 3rd and 9. We need to stop. All right, we're going to put our specialty pass rusher on the field. We're going to put a defensive end on the field who hopefully has is at least very good at rushing the passer. And then we're going to have a DB back there who is a ball hawk, who has the IQ to know what they're going to be lined up in. Our coaching staff has prepared our DBs to know what they like to do on long yardage, and he knows where to be and instinctually gets to the ball. It seems like that's the type of guy he is. Now, he's got, I think, at least 2 years left of eligibility. This could be a developmental piece. This could be a guy, listen, we want that skill set now, but we know he's going to be even better as we lose a guaranteed NFL corner in DJ James, as we lose both Pritchett, and I think this is Simpson's last year as well. You want people in the defensive backfield who know the game, but also have a nose for the ball. We're going to be losing quite a bit of talent, even if we don't, Pritchett had some of his lumps or whatnot. But Kiante Scott has at least 1 more year of eligibility after this season, if I'm not mistaken.
He does.
We lose Donovan Kaufman too after this. Well, we could. He doesn't have to go this year, but he can. We're stocking up for the future as well. All right. So we need guys who are going to be in here this year that we'd like, who have these skill sets, because we can't just reload in the transfer portal and expect all this to smooth itself over with new guys every year. Like, I think some of the guys they've gotten this year can be fantastic developmental pieces, so you don't have to look for your ball hawk cornerback or safety in the next cycle, because you want him here already. They got to learn new defense. Like, some of that is continuity is important. Y'all hear me say this all the time. Continuity is important. I really believe that helps the team be their best selves and help that talent play to their best. So yes, we got this guy in here right now. Even if he doesn't play a whole bunch of snaps for us this year, we may be looking at a star in the years to come. So I'm like Ike. I want to see where the depth chart is when it comes out, but I'm also looking at some of these guys to get some time this year so they can ball out the next season.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see how this all plays out with that. AULM jumps back in and says Brian Robinson and Junior Rosegreen were pretty darn good in reference to defensive backs that were out there, kind of ball hawk types. Brian Robinson definitely would fit
Yeah.
the bill for a ball hawk with the number of interceptions he had. Junior Rosegreen, not really known for interceptions, but known for patrolling the middle of the field and making defenders, or excuse me, wide receivers pay for that. So, and then he was an interceptions guy too. I don't want to make it seem like he wasn't a guy that go out there and get takeaways, but
he was an executioner.
Yeah,
that's number one role
for sure. CM Pat comes in and says, adding another DB makes me wonder how tight is the competition. Another KS who's
other Kiante Scott.
Oh, Kiante Scott. Other than Kiante Scott, who's stepping up. So yeah, I mean, listen, that's interesting thought. Like, where are we in the competition for the outside corners? Listen, DJ James. If someone is beating out DJ James for an outside corner spot, then good Lord, our defense is amazing.
Right.
But Pritchett on the opposite side is a guy who has played a lot of snaps in college football. And, he is somebody who fans are split. Well, actually, I don't know if fans are even split on. The vast majority of what I see for Pritchett is that they don't want him to be the guy starting on the outside.
Which is why K.N. Lee. Yeah.
It's like K.N. Lee's the young guy who a lot of people are hoping can get some time. Kiante Scott mentioned K.N. Lee in our interview as a guy who to look out for. I liked what J.D. Rim was doing on the outside in the few snaps that he was able to get last year. He's another guy who I think plays really physical on the outside as a cornerback. Trying to think of any other guys that we've got that are out there that I think
straight up corners.
Yeah.
So Osbury's moved to safety. So when I think corner, I think we know DJ James locking down one spot. The other spot, whether they're one or two, we got K.N. Lee and we got Nehemiah Pritchett. Now you ask me who's backing up DJ James, and I would say I don't know.
JD probably JD. He was hurt a little bit during the spring, but yeah, probably JD.
Okay, so you know what, that makes more sense now. Why you go get another corner? Because this whole time I'm thinking we got like 6 cornerbacks, but I'm thinking, well, Austin Osbury moved over. Jalen Simpson moved over. Well, maybe you do need another cornerback. So them targeting a cornerback late cycle makes more sense now. Because I know we got 3, but I think about who's there for.
But the safety room is the one that's like nuts, where it's like you only have 2 safeties, right? I think they're coaching stars and safeties together, right? So Kiante Scott and Donovan Kaufman, guys who I'm pretty sure will be playing some star role for Auburn, are in the safety room. So that room is a little bit bigger as far as the size. But yeah, the outside corner, they probably do have room they had room apparently to pick up another one to get out there and compete for that 2 deep spot out there. So
yeah.
All right. Haley jumps back in saying it's clear Coach Harsin simply didn't believe recruiting was his job.
Yeah, I see that evidence now from seeing again the effort that Hugh Freeze places on recruiting, and not just from, of course, we told this story, but during our interview, he said, "Okay, no, I edited the audio on the interview, right? So before we signed off, and Mike was like, all right, you guys, thanks Hugh Freeze for Coach Hugh Freeze for talking to us. It's been the War Report." As soon as we said, thanks for talking to us, Coach, he said, all right, you guys, I got to go recruit. He was like, wait, Coach, we got to sign off. We need you here so we can actually end the interview. Listen, man, he is not playing about it. Every time I see a recruit interviewed, it says, man, Coach Hugh Freeze has hit me up every day. The coach, the position coach, he's like, between the position coach, the coordinator, and Coach Hugh Freeze, I'm hearing from all of these guys. At least between them, I'm hearing from Auburn every day. That's a type of effort that I did not pick up on. I didn't see it. I can't say absolutely that it wasn't happening, but no, we didn't see.
Well, it definitely wasn't happening from the head coaching standpoint.
Right.
I don't know what the coordinators and position coaches were doing, but the head coaches, listen, and that's not disrespect to Brian Harsin. He would tell you himself he wasn't on the phone with recruits every day.
Right. So the effort, like the effort, the intentional nature of, I need these guys to be here. Something that was very interesting. There was it was an interview by one of the I cannot remember the service. If I could, I would name it to give the writer credit. But what the player said was, oh yeah, Auburn's coming after me hard. They are determined to get the best players down there no matter what. Auburn is relentless after me right now. I can't tell you the last time I heard that. That they basically said, "Oh no, they want all the great play. They want all the good players. I'm hearing from them. I'm definitely coming back." All these things that we weren't hearing. A lot of the stuff from players is coach speak. Well, not coach speak. It's player speak, right? Recruit speak. Things that they are going to say stay complimentary because they don't really make their choice until later, so they're keeping it under wraps and just being nice to everybody. Man, it's different. It's definitely different. It's definitely different.
Yeah, definitely a clear difference here. Chris Sanders jumps in and said, betting is weird. I don't know why we got off on betting. Something maybe in the chat was talking about betting, but betting is weird. The higher the amount you put on the overline, the less return you get. It's the exact opposite for the underline. So I will stop talking and I will let you take this away because I don't have the first clue what this is.
No problem, man. See, that's why I bookmarked this one. So, Chris, what happened was the line came out for Auburn for the season total at roughly, it might have been 6. I think it was 6.5 to start. It was 6.5, right? What happens is when people start betting one direction, it makes it value less because if everybody is just hammering 6.5 over 6.5 over 6.5, well, that used to be the same money that you would earn by betting the under. At least when they first released the line, the value was probably -115, which is, we might do another primer so all that makes sense to y'all. But let's say the over and the under make the exact same amount of money on the same money bet. If everybody's betting the over, what that tells Vegas is, you know what, this seems really likely, so that means it shouldn't be as valuable. So what will happen is it will slowly lose value. $100 will win you 90, $100 will win you 88, $100 will win you 85. And when that line gets so much smaller in value, the line will tick up. And then the season total for Auburn, if everybody keeps betting the over 6.5, will be, well, now it's over 7. Now, if you place that bet while it was over 6.5, you got it. It doesn't matter. When that line changes for everybody who has not placed a bet yet. If you booked that over 6.5 a month ago, you're going to look in your little records. It's going to say over 6.5 at whatever the money you bet, at whatever the value was. It's going to stay the same. That's the advantage of getting in on the betting early. The same thing happens during the week, or in a regular college football week. When you want to bet, man, I think this is going to happen. I'm going to bet this person to win. Well, cool. You bet it. And then all of a sudden, well, now everybody's jumping on that team to win. And it decreases in value, or the line changes to, instead of them having to win by 10, they got to win by 13. They got to win by 14. So that's why it's advantageous to get in on that bet early. What you're seeing is everybody's leaning over 6.5 for Auburn. The value will get back good once it goes up to 7, which could happen. The disadvantage there is now 7 games being won by Auburn only gets you a push, and you would only get your money back. If you bet it over 6.5, 7 games wins you money, even if it's not a straight up bet the same value as the under right now. So right now, I personally would bet 6.5 over because it's an easy bet. I might come back later and bet over 7 if I continue to like what I'm seeing, just because over 7 will balance the books a little bit and give you a little better value. But 8 games is possible with this roster. I think it's possible. I think it's squarely on the table with this roster, but we will see.
Yeah. Hey, man. Whatever he just said, y'all, I trust it because that's the guy who knows what he's talking about. Listen, it should tell you something. I talk a lot, but I only talk if I feel like I know what I'm talking about. So
yeah, that's why I be shutting up too. And I don't know, I don't talk.
James Sawyer jumps in. He said, then we still have Tyler Scott coming in. So true freshman Tyler Scott. JC Hart, another guy who plays defensive back, likely will be playing wide receiver, which I don't know now that we've gotten 2 additional wide receivers, whether or not he's going to slide into the wide receiver room for Auburn. But it is going to be interesting to see where that plays out as well. You know, we talked about outside corners. Kiante Scott, though he plays the star, has the ability to play the outside, but because it's a different room and being coached by a different person, I'm not actually sure how likely that probability is for him. I do think that the thing for him right now is they want him to be that star corner playing in the slot and kind of being able to play in the box as kind of like a box safety type. So I don't know how likely it is that Scott is going to do that. But yeah, I think We've got a lot of talent to compete at all of the places. It's refreshing to be able to look at your roster and say, I don't know who's going to play at this spot, and not feel bad when you're saying that, right? And saying it to say the outside corner, man, we got a few good options. I wouldn't be mad at any of these guys playing there. Safety, man, we got a few good options there. I wouldn't be mad at any of these guys playing. Linebacker now, got a few good options. I wouldn't be like, it's not a clear cut. This person is heads and tails better than everybody else, which is where you want to get to, where you're like, oh no, this is the guy.
Right.
DJ James, we know he's the guy, right? You know that Jarquez Hunter is the guy, right? But the wide receiver room, there's a lot of guys who's like, I don't really know who the guy is there, right? And so we need to be able to get that in a couple of spots. Along the offensive line, you want to have a guy, but you still want to know that whoever's coming in behind that person is going to be serviceable to be able to fill in for that. But I feel like we have more quality depth in all of the rooms across the board, where I don't feel a sense of panic if this guy goes down, that room is doomed.
Right. We finally feel like
I don't know that there's a room that I feel that way about.
Yeah. Well, TBD on the offensive line, because we know we've got one true, really good left tackle, and that appears to be Dylan Wade. And again, I base a lot of that on what Cole Kubelik had to say about him. I don't know if we have another really good left tackle. They put Britton, who came over from Western Kentucky, they put him at right tackle. He did play left tackle for us. We kind of got the best of him when we played him. So if he couldn't stand up to a decent or at times a mediocre Auburn defensive line last year, I don't know what chance he has at left tackle here playing for us. So I think they may have him at the right spot at right tackle. Do we have another true left tackle? That's where I start to worry. Depth. We may have a better starting offensive line. Depth on the offensive lines, particularly at the tackle positions, is still a question mark.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, a lot to be determined here as we get into summer workouts. We're going to try to get you more coverage from more of the players so you can hear their thoughts on how things are going. But until then, there are a lot of things that are already available for you. Building Rapport is going strong for the summer. I told you guys we were going to be doing that. Make sure you stay tuned for more Building Rapport that we have coming up. Make sure that you support us by supporting the people who support us. The Rogue Shop is the sponsor of the Morning Drop. Head to rogueshop.com, use code Rapport, and let them know that you guys, the War Report, sent you. We are out of here. We'll be back at you tomorrow morning with more morning droppage, talking about all things Auburn sports. Make sure you guys lock in with us. Like the video before you get out of here. Subscribe to the channel before you get out of here. Thanks to those of you who gifted memberships today. I did see that. I think it was Brian Hancher and let me see who else. Dana Jones and CM Pat all did gifted memberships today. Thank you so much for that. As always, we're out of here. We'll see you guys the next time. As always, War Eagle. Peace.
Peace.
Drop!